Darci's Corner. It's March 15th, 2021. We still have a pandemic going on, but Canada and the US and much of the world is ramping up with vaccines and such, so hopefully this won't last too much longer. On the bright side of this pandemic is I get Canada has this program called the CERB, and because I had a job and was laid off, and then the pandemic hit, the CERB just continued my EI payments essentially. So I get $1,800 a month from the Canadian government. Plus I have a small part-time job, which is really good that I get that money from the government, because otherwise I'd be bankrupt right now. We're homeless. So, that part's a good thing. But I started my full transition at the exact same time as the pandemic started, which was really awkward, trying to get to doctors and blood tests and get things sorted out. And so now I've been a full year and a bit on estrogen. And before that, I was like 4 to 5 months on blockers, because that was all I get the doctors to prescribe me. So I've been out a year and a half, essentially, socially and medically a year. And transitioning is a challenge. It really is. Especially when you're in your 40s. If you try to do this, and you can check around on different YouTube sites and Reddit and whatever, you'll see all sorts of pictures and stories of people transitioning when they're 18 or 19 or 15 or 16, or in their early 20s. And it goes pretty fast for them. Like the physical part of it anyways, if they're on the right medications. And it doesn't really matter if it's male to female or female to male. The younger you start this, but I mean like late teens, sometimes people do it in their early teens, but they're teens to their early 20s, and anywhere from 3 to 6 months in, and the physical part is done. They look the role, they sound the role. The longer that you're on testosterone, either naturally because you're born with testicles, or artificially because you're female to male and you're taking testosterone. The longer you're on testosterone, the more body hair growth you're going to have, like facial hair and chest hair, which I have. I also have an unsightly amount of back hair. And once the hair is in, and once the larynx has stretched, that's permanent, okay? So to fix that, you can fix it. There's therapies like laser therapy and electrolysis, and there's a larynx surgery you can get to shorten your larynx that'll maybe feminize your voice, maybe not. These are all expensive. They're all time consuming, and I'm in Canada, and we do have some supports, but not all supports. So if I want to feminize my face surgically, I have to pay for that. If I want to feminize my voice surgically, I have to pay for that. It's very difficult for me right now to get gainful employment that pays more than minimum wage and is part-time, more better than part-time, because the places that I worked before, I worked for machine shops, I did siding on trailers, so I do a little bit of carpentry, a little bit of metal work, done lots of oil and gas type jobs. But they take a look at me and they go, "Oh, that's a man with breasts. We want nothing to do with that." They'll hire a woman. They'll hire a man. They won't hire a man becoming a woman. They might hire a woman becoming a man if that person is able to man up enough and look enough like a man. They don't really check in between your legs to see what's there, but they do kind of give you a once over. And if you don't meet their requirement, like, "Oh well, yeah, we don't need you." So even though I have all sorts of employable job skills, that those jobs pay $20 and better an hour, I can't get those jobs right now. At the time I made the decision to transition, I was working for a mill. I was protected by a union. I was good at my job. I was getting $22 an hour, which is not huge money, but it was livable money. Um, but then the slowdown hit, and then the pandemic hit. So suddenly I lost my benefits, and I lost my ability to provide for myself. Um, and like that money was going to let me pay for my debts and my vehicles, and the things that I would have to pay for my transition would have been paid for out of that job. But that job's gone now. So now I have to settle for whatever jobs I can get. So I'm working minimum wage jobs, and I got the little bit of money the government's giving me, and that's all I got. But I'm making the best of what I got, and I'm moving forward regardless. Okay, I do have some support through benefits from my wife's job. That those are paying for my medications, which are not exceptionally expensive. But if your medications are say $50 a month, and you only make minimum wage, and it's all you can do to pay the rent, that $50 a month is a lot of money. But fortunately, they're combined. I think they're less than that, and again, the benefits that my spouse has are covering them. But I could have very easily lost my spouse through this transition. I haven't yet, but I could have. This is a very challenging thing. And as you can tell from my voice, I mean, I'm not there yet. My face is getting there. I can see myself being her visually much closer than I was before. And I'm not crying too much because I'm in a first world environment. I'm in a relatively safe neighborhood. I don't feel like anybody's going to attack me. Nobody's accused me of any sort of crime or anything, which is a big fear for a lot of us, that we're going to be accused of trying to grab a kid or trying to, grab a lady in the washroom, which is not what we're trying to do at all, but that's a big fear, and that happens to a lot of us in a lot of other parts of the world. So that's a valid fear to have. But anyway, I've come as far as I can come, and I'm much more confident in myself as Darci, as her, than I was when I started this a year and a half ago or whatever it was. And in spite of all that, I have family members who, like, just yesterday, my mother sent me this compilation, this documentary put together by somebody about trans people who transitioned and then hated their transition years later, and were all sad about it. Like, undermining my confidence right now is a shitty thing to do. Trying to tell me that I've destroyed my life and that I don't really know what I want. You know what I want? I want to go back and talk to 10-year-old me. Because my mother at 10 told me very directly, gay was bad, gay was wrong, gay was swearing. We never use that word in this house ever again, and don't you ever talk about it. That's homophobia. And the difference between homophobia and transphobia is nothing. Especially when you're 10 years old and you don't know the difference. 10-year-old me knew, absolutely knew, she was a girl sometimes. And she wanted to do girly things. And she, sure, He-Man was fun and Ninja Turtles were great, and there was all sorts of boy things that I liked doing. But boy, that girl stuff looked like fun. It just looked like the girls were having a better time than I was. And when I was on the playground, I always wanted to do the girl games. I hated the boy games. I hated the boy stuff. I mean, hate's a little strong, but I didn't like being hit. I didn't like hitting people. I remember they were playing wrestling, and they were like pretending to hit each other and stomp on the ground, and it was stupid, in my opinion. Well, that's because that was not meant to appeal to chicks in general. I know there are chicks who love wrestling and hockey and hitting each other, and that's fine. But I wasn't one of them. I liked jump rope. I liked hopscotch. I liked the Mrs. Mac, all dressed in black, silver buttons down her back. Like, that's a hand clapping game that little kids play, little girls play. I remember on the playground there was this, it was like a merry-go-round, and it had like chains and whatever, and you grab onto them and you run around and you spin and you fly. Only the little girls ever played that game. And I only found that out because I would run out to it and I would see girls there. Well, maybe there's just girls there because no boys got there. So I made sure to get there first the one time. And I did get there first. But no other little boys followed me. You know why? That was a little girl game. I didn't understand that at the time. I was 10. And a 10-year-old, understand, we didn't have the internet. We didn't have resources like that. This is the 80s. A 10-year-old doesn't know the difference between gay and trans. So I hid that part of myself when I was 10. And then I forgot it was there. And then later, in my teen years and in my adult years, I couldn't figure out why I kept having these fantasies about dressing up as a woman and walking around West Edmonton Mall or wherever it was I was going to go. Someplace where nobody would know it was me. Okay? It wasn't that I was a pervert. It wasn't that I was this sycophant. That was my real self trying to shine through. And I was always pushing it down, always pushing it away, always pretending it wasn't there. I had no clue as a young adult that I was transgender. I had transgender thoughts all the time. I just didn't know what they were. And I probably had dysphoria too. The thing about dysphoria is sometimes it disguises itself as a bad mood. You don't feel good or something's wrong about life and you don't know why. I was 30 before I looked up what those thoughts meant, and I was 39 when I had the thought of, if I have to spend one more day in this prison, I'm going to kill myself. 39 before I felt dysphoria to the point where it was suicidal. And I had people who supposedly love me sending me stupid information that like everything you're doing is ruining your life and nobody needs to change their gender anyways. Fuck you. You ruined my fucking life by not telling me it was okay to be gay. By not giving me a space where I could explore my gender properly as a child, as a teenager. I could have sorted this out when I was 14. What I really sorted out, I could have figured out if I like boys or girls. I could have figured out if I wanted to be a boy or a girl. But I wasn't given that space. I wasn't given that chance. So now that I'm suicidal about it, you want me to commit suicide? Is that what you want? Because that's where it's leading. So do not ever underestimate or undermine somebody's transition. Also, if somebody needs to detransition because they, for whatever reason, it's not working for them anymore, there's all sorts of reasons behind that. I've put up other videos on detransitioning. You can go back and see my thoughts on that. But that's perfectly fine if someone detransitions. You should be comfortable in your body and in your gender. And if you're not, you need to take steps to fix that. And the only person who knows what your comfort level is you. So there's no judgment at all to anybody who detransitions for whatever the reasons that they have for doing that are. I'm not putting those people down at all. I'm glad that some people have done it, and I think that they should be supported as well. But don't ever, ever, ever try to undermine somebody who's trying to go through this, because this is the hardest thing you'll ever do in your life. I guarantee you. I've done lots of hard things. I've been through lots of really tough situations. This is the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. So anybody who wants to get in between me and my progress can fuck right off. Yeah, that includes my parents, my siblings, anybody. I don't need any of you as badly as you think I do. I want to love you, but you do shit like that, fuck you. Darci's Corner, out.